Pit stop. We have another amazing guest for you today. Kim McCoy is a holistic chiropractor who's 27 years of clinical experience, personal journey, including a pandemic pivot, eclectic past jobs, and Gen X transgender identity, and trauma informed strategies empower people to get unstuck, reclaim their health, and find balance in a chaotic world. Kim, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. We are certainly excited to hear everything, and we're going to dive into it in just a moment. But as is customary in the show, we do like to have a little bit of an icebreaker. And the question for you today was, which cartoon character do you resonate with the most, and why?
It's hard for me to come up with these kind of answers, but the thing that pops to mind when you ask that cartoon character question is I just envision like Popeye and I feel like I'm like a hybrid, like if Popeye, Olive, and Bluto all three had like a hybrid love child or something. That would be me. And I think it's because there's elements of each of them that I resonate with, like Popeye, he's kind of the hero, but he's sort of like a bumbling hero. He doesn't seem that sharp, but he saves the day anyway. And when he eats the spinach and he gets strong. When I was little, I remember thinking like, how stupid is that? But as an adult, when I feel really bad, and sometimes I just shove a bunch of green bitter food in my mouth, and like 20 minutes later, I feel amazing. So I'm like, yeah, that's how that works. And then olive oil is like not classically hot or whatever, but everybody's like fighting for her. So I don't know, that cartoon is just kind of like for the everyman. Every man, every woman, can be a hero.
Yeah, I really like that. So before we get into it again, just a little bit more into your journey, because I'm definitely interested in this description here. Um, what is procrastination to you, and what does it mean to you personally?
Yeah, to me, procrastination is like putting off of something that you think you should do or want to do, like something that you feel like this has got to get done, and then it's not getting done. Yeah.
What's your secret sauce to overcoming procrastination then?
Personally, I have different strategies. Scheduling is good. Definitely accountability, some kind of like built-in accountability, taking advantage of our built-in social pressure shame mechanism is a big one. Like I've written a few books now, and last year I wrote this one, the Daily Nugget. So the Daily Nugget was like a daily email, which is still ongoing. And my idea for this book initially was like, wouldn't it be great to have a book with like 365 simple tips every day for health? That would be so cool. And then I was like, that sounds cool. And also, how will I keep the momentum to write this book? So I thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if I made it a daily email, and then I would have to deliver something every day. So at first there was still that procrastination, that like, oh, I don't know. So I was like, okay, I'll create a sign up link, but I'm gonna bury it in like the third paragraph down on my blog, which I don't think anybody reads. And then I can be like, oh, I did something, but I don't have to do anything. But then within like a couple of weeks, like someone signed up, and I was like, oh shit, someone signed up. So then I had to make an email so that that person didn't think I didn't have anything, and then someone else signed up, and I'm like, oh god, now I have to deliver for Barbara and this other guy. So just by having that pressure of knowing that somebody's looking like every single day, I really I really had to do it. And then, a year later I had a book. So that kind of thing really helps me, even if it's just that like gentle pressure. It doesn't even have to be a brutal accountability consequence. Just the sense that somebody's looking, or that you have some kind of a deadline, because people always will work on a real deadline.
I like that. I definitely like that. You know, those accountability is a big thing, like you said, and I actually like that idea. It's a very interesting idea. You know, just having that there for sure. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? I'm super interested. I mean, you know, just the description, eclectic jobs, you know, and the
Yeah.
pivot. We definitely want to get into that. Could you
Yeah.
tell us about your journey and how you got to be where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, originally as a little kid, I just wanted to be like a writer, I just wanted to write, but my parents were like, "Oh, that's not a real job. You can't do that." So my mom is Korean, and she had kind of a rigid idea. She would always say to us, "People like us can't make it," you know. So she said, "There's only three choices for people like us." She's like soldier, priest, or doctor. So which one will it be? I didn't wanna exercise and go to the military, and I didn't wanna be a priest. Well, at the time, it would have had to been, be a nun. So I kind of leaned to the doctor route, but literally the day before leaving for pre-med, a chiropractor knocked on the door, and, uh and I opened the door and he was just, "Hi, I'm the new chiropractor meeting neighbors, and I wanna see what people think about chiropractic." And I almost just, like, closed the door on him. I was like, "Well, you don't have to meet me. I'm leaving tomorrow." And he was like, "Oh, where are you going to?" And we got into a little chat because he had just come from San Francisco, and that's where I was going to. And then when I said I was going for pre-med, he was like, "Pre-med? You don't wanna be a medical doctor, you wanna be a chiropractor." And I was like, "I don't wanna be a back doctor." And he was like, "Back doctor?" And then he was like, "Do you have a minute?" And he came in and just showed me all his charts and kind of gave me an education on the philosophy of chiropractic, which I didn't know anything about. I just really thought they were back doctors. So it got the wheels turning, and as I went through, I realized, oh, I don't have to work in a hospital and under that whole grind, in the corporate medical system. It was like, oh, I could be a young, independent, hang my own shingle, work my own hours, help people without drugs and surgery. It sounded really great. So I just like pivoted to the chiropractic direction. And then once I was in that direction, then very early on, I discovered the neuro emotional technique, NET, which is where I discovered that it's not just accidents and injuries that will knock things out of whack. Stress will do it, emotions will do it, and then NET was a way to address that. So that's how I kind of early on got onto this mind body thing. Yeah.
And you've definitely had an interesting journey, and you've had a lot of success, and you've written a lot, a lot of good information. You put a lot of good stuff out there. What do you think was your biggest challenge in that you had to overcome on your journey?
Ooh, I mean, each part of the journey has something to overcome, right? I think the biggest part was just being like an extreme introvert. Um, as an extreme introvert, when you're a kid, you just get through school, you just get good grades, study, whatever you get through. And it it didn't really click until I was already in chiropractic school as things started to become more real. Um, you know, it went from the dream of hang my own shingle, all that to like, oh God, hang my own shingle. That means I have to talk to those people. Like, I have to engage with the public. I what? So that was a huge challenge, and so that's why in chiropractic school, I started taking classes at the local acting school so that I could work on getting over that, like, fear of just speaking in front of people. So that's always a big one for I think any self-employed person, realizing that it's not just that you have to be good at whatever you do, but you have to do this whole other thing, like what you're doing with the podcast and putting yourself out there.
No, you're absolutely right. And thank you for sharing that. And interestingly enough, I also identified as an introvert. So I know I'm well versed in those steps that you need to take for sure.
Yeah.
And when do you think that everything finally clicked and you realized that yes, this was the definitely the right path, and I'm doing this, and I'm going to help all these people, and I know it's my purpose.
I'm not sure when it all the way clicked. Um because you always it's sometimes the journey is like this, especially every time you get a huge win with a client or whatever, and they're like, thank you so much, you changed my life. You're like, yes, this is my journey, this is the right path. But then sometimes, something happens, like the pandemic, like when the pandemic hit, and it was like, okay, everyone work from home and don't touch anybody, stay 6 feet away. I was like, oh shit, like I chose the wrong profession. Don't touch anybody. I was it just like I just felt like those choose your own adventure books. I felt like I just chose the wrong one, and it was like, and you died. you know.
Yeah, that and that must have been really tough, during the pandemic for sure. You know, getting the chiropractor there. But thankfully we're out of that now.
Yeah, yeah.
And how did you find it transitioning back into this? I guess this world now after the pandemic. Did you find a lot of resistance getting back in?
It's, not resistance, but it's different, and just from where I'm living, I'm in San Francisco, so San Francisco was, 100%, I mean, not 100%, but it was very much driven by tech, and tech is never gonna come back to the office all the way, so the city is recovering, but it's never gonna be like it was, and I feel like how old people, like our grandparents and older, who lived through the Great Depression, like, they always had these weird, food stashes and stuff, like, they went through that, they'll never not have, 50 pounds of sugar or whatever. I feel like people like us who were working or self-employed or whatever through the pandemic, will never not have a side hustle or some form of digital something you can do online. So I think after the pandemic, of course, I'm doing my regular work, but now there's this priority that didn't used to be there of, okay, what am I producing that I can spread out there? What am I producing that can connect with people also digitally who are not just people I can physically touch right in front of me?
Hmm. And what would you say is your favorite? It's really your baby that you're the most proud of getting out there.
I think my favorite thing to do, like in person one on one, is NET, the neuro emotional technique. That's my favorite thing. But my favorite thing that I've gotten out there is the daily nugget that the emails that made the book. Originally, the idea was the emails were in service to create this book that I wanted to make. But then what happened was, um, people like the book okay, but they love the emails. So actually, the emails are the thing I'm most proud of, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Like, why do they love those emails so much? Because people hate emails, right? They're like, delete, delete, delete. It's too much. So the way these emails are formatted is it's a big stick figure. The idea was they should be able to open the email and not have to read it to get the idea of what that little health nugget is. So the idea is like if you don't have the energy to even read a thing, you should be able to just see this little stick figure, understand what it is, and then if you want to, then you can read a little more about it or click further. And what I'm realizing too is that why people are loving it too is because everybody knows that you're not supposed to check your email first thing in the morning on your phone, but everyone does it. So so it's this window of time where your brain is like it's receptive to things, and then they open it and they look at it, and it's this cute, it's this simple little friendly thing that's unlike anything else in your email box, and it makes an impression, and it starts the day on this note of like, "Oh, I can do that. I can do that one good thing for me today." So it ends up hitting at that, like, neurological sweet spot unintentionally. I think that's why it works.
That's really interesting because as you were saying that, I was going in through my own mental checklist, and I was thinking, well, wait a second. You're right. I mean, how many emails do I just like? I don't even read them. They get to that preview pane, and that's it.
Yeah.
I just hit
Yeah.
delete right away. I don't even read them. They just
Yeah.
so that's interesting. It's a really unique idea. I think that you've got there, and
Yeah.
it's a really good idea. And is that so that's a series of 365 emails then.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have it's set up as an automation so that when people subscribe, they just start at the beginning and they get like a year of the daily nugget.
Can you give an example of maybe the top? Well, what about your favorite nugget out of that list?
My favorite nugget, um, well, drinking the water is always gets repeated a lot, but God, I don't know what my favorite one. It's weird. Everyone, um, things will resonate with people that you just it never occurs to you that they'll resonate with them. Like sometimes when I would be making them, um, I would really struggle some days. Like the first 30 were really easy. Like anyone can knock out 30 simple health tips. But as you get to like 200, you just start to feel like, oh my God, I don't know anything. This is all. That's all I got. I don't know anything else. But and so you're really like reaching and reaching, and then it'll be something like, oh, I don't know. Let's grab and see what some of the later nuggets were. It'll be like, yeah, like do something hard is one of the nuggets. So it's like, do something hard, and it's someone taking a cold shower. So so and cold shower is actually a separate one. But the idea is that if you do something hard early in the day especially, it makes everything else, easier because you already like it mentally reframes everything where you're like, oh, well, it's not as hard as that thing that I did. So it sets you up already to have like a positive day. And some of those, the like the do something hard ones, I would think, oh God, nobody's gonna like those because it's not tangible, like, eat this fruit or this exercise can help you. But sometimes people would write back and just be like, wow, that's exactly what I needed to hear on that day. So I guess that's the same with any creator. You just have to let go of expectations or what you think people will get out of it, or if anyone will get anything out of it, because it's gonna hit the right person at the right time.
I love that one, and I also love the fact that you brought up the water, just because um, a lot of us tend to ignore it, and I'm sure that you have a lot more information on this. The connection, the mind body connection when you're drinking water. I mean, it's so important not only for your body, but it's the drinking enough water is important for your mind and even your mental state. And that's something I didn't even realize. What's been your experience
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah, a lot of all this body stuff you don't realize until after the fact. In my office sometimes we would do these little challenges. So I remember once, one month it was like the water challenge where every day we were going to get the whole, the staff and myself and whoever clients wanted to participate, 3 quarts a day, like stick to that, and then see what happens after the 30 days. And everyone had really good results, and most people had things that they didn't expect. Everyone expected, your skin might look better or things like that, um but that was like a headache-free month for me. And I'm a health practitioner, and I should know a thing or two about headaches, and I did, and I thought I did, but it never occurred to me that, yes, and if I drink more water, I won't have a headache, or mood, oh, wow, I I have felt much happier this month just because I was hydrated. Like, things like that you don't even notice are connected or could be connected to it.
What do you think is your favorite thing that you've learned about the mind body connection in your career?
I think my favorite thing is that the world itself can be better if just you're better. Like, your body is the lens that you perceive everything through. And sometimes, I mean, things are crazy out there, but sometimes we get really wrapped up in how crazy things are, and it weighs down, and we get the feeling like all is lost or whatever. But then if you help your body to feel better, it's weird how the perception can shift too. And even though nothing objectively changed out there, your experience of it can be so different. And like life itself can literally feel like, oh, life is good, even though a couple weeks ago you were ready to go off a cliff, but like nothing really changed in the outside world. I think that's the biggest thing.
I like that you said that too, and I had an example in my mind. It's sort of like when you're trying to go up a bunch of stairs. I mean, if you're kind of out of shape and your knees are cracking and making those really weird sounds as you're running up
Yeah.
the stairs, probably not a great experience. But if you've trained a little bit and you've done your stretches and you get up those stairs and your knees aren't cracking, it's a much better experience, I imagine, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I definitely like that. What would you say is the most important thing that you've learned about yourself over the course of your career?
I think the most important thing I've learned about myself over the course of the career is that my mind, my chatter thinking mind is not all that it thinks it is. And that it doesn't control the show. I think as a kid, being like an introvert nerd, and my brain was how I got through everything. I think I gave it a lot more weight in how life is gonna be. And now as I experience, different forms of healing, with myself, with my clients, I realize that the thinking brain is just a little part of it, and that really there's bigger forces at play. Um, and I don't want to say like they're out of your control or they're in your control, but it's like this like cooperative thing. You have to cooperate with yourself, with your higher self, with your body, with it's like you have to be in harmony, I guess. Yeah.
And just for people that are listening there, how can we maybe tune in? Because I mean, we're so out of touch.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to admit. I mean, I was really out of touch for a long
Yeah.
time. How can we maybe do like a quick check in or a self check to see if maybe we need to pay attention to something?
Yeah, a quick check-in is just basic mindfulness. It would be just like turn off your devices, turn everything off and just sit down quietly somewhere, quietly with yourself, and just do kind of a basic body scan. Just kind of picture your feet. What do they feel like? What's going on in there? What does it feel? Just kind of like little, step by step checking in with your body parts. What does it feel like? What's my breath? Can I feel my heart? What's my mind doing? What's just paying attention in the absence of other stimulus. And if you really want to, go for it, if you can like turn off the circuit breaker in your house, like really shut off all the power, it it's a whole nother level of quiet. Like you don't even notice this like subtle hum that all the different things are creating in your house. Like when the power is out, it's like, whoa, that's quiet. And just checking in.
Being an introvert, sometimes too, they say that the silence can be kind of deafening, right?
Hmm.
Do you have any tips for just being able to sit in that quiet? Because sometimes it's like this. I don't
Yeah.
even know how to explain it. It's just
I
deafening,
mean,
right?
you don't have to do it for very long, and the big thing with mindfulness is the non-judgment. So if you are uncomfortable or like, wow, this is really uncomfortable, just feel the discomfort, but don't judge it. Don't be like, well, I should be able to handle my own self longer. Just notice it. Just be like, okay, it's uncomfortable. Like that just helps bring the awareness and not judging yourself if you have to grab your device in 5 minutes, like, whatever. You're just trying to get more information about yourself and learn more about it, and then say, "Okay, well, what does that mean, and can we try again and do it for a little longer next time?" Yeah, the awareness, as I'm sure with your work with procrastination, the awareness is the first big step. Once you can see what you're doing, then it's easier to tackle it.
Yeah, but I'll be the first to say too. Sometimes we have a lot of blind spots, and that's where
Sure.
friends, well, maybe not necessarily friends because they tend to sugarcoat things, but
Right, right.
teachers, mentors,
Yeah,
um, that
yeah.
surly uncle that that's 3 times removed or something can tell
Right,
you
right.
what you're missing, right?
Yeah, and that's why I like, NET, the neuro emotional technique, which is the main modality that I use because it uses muscle testing, which is a form of biofeedback, so that helps us to check in with how does the body feel about something that you're dealing with. You know, you might be uh, like, like with the procrastination, you might be like, "Oh, well, I don't have any resistance to, filing my taxes. I don't know why I just don't do it. I don't know." But if you're not doing it, there is a reason, like your body has some reason, and it's usually some kind of fear. So you might be like, "Well, I'm not afraid of it." But if you're not doing it, there's some resistance. So using the biofeedback with the muscle test, we're able to pinpoint like what is the feeling, and then why and where is it coming from. And then once you put, with the body's help, you put the little clues together, then the mind can go, oh, I can see that now. I see how that works. And then you can clear it out on that fight flight body level.
Have you got a maybe a small example of what that actually looks like?
Like the actual procedure.
Well, the actual process or one of the
Yeah.
actual just making that connection, like what you were saying.
Yeah. So the muscle test would be analogous to like, a lie detector test if we had a little graph and a little pen. So you get a baseline sense of what somebody's normal muscle response is, and then you throw out some neutral concepts. They might say something like, today's Thursday. I'm okay doing NET. It's okay for me to, I'm safe here with Dr. Kim. Just kind of like neutral statements. And then you have them say some what we call okay statements that are related to whatever the problem thing is. It might be, I'm okay filing my taxes, and then maybe that one stays neutral. But then if we tweak it a little bit to like it's safe to file my taxes or it's good to, then we might get like kind of a glitch in the muscle where it's like, oh, now the muscle is glitching. So it doesn't mean they're lying, but it means something triggered in the nervous system. It went from neutral to now it's reactive to some reason. So using acupuncture points from Chinese medicine, it's like a circuit board. So we keep the glitchy thought while stimulating these different meridian points, and typically one of them will suddenly make it smooth again. So that gives us a clue like, okay, well, something about the kidney circuit, something about this statement, and you're connecting the dots. So typically different meridian points, different body areas go to specific different emotions that helps us really like distill what does the body think is happening. Yeah.
That's definitely fascinating, and I know a little bit about it, but um, definitely nowhere near enough.
Yeah, there's a
um,
lot of similar techniques like I think EMDR
mhm.
is one of them that has like a similar like mind body, like kind of looking for like where's the glitch happening in response to whatever you're working with.
Yeah, in your experience, and I mean, we've all dealt with stress, and we all want to figure out stress because we want to, prevent burnout, and we want
Sure.
to, do all these different things. Is there any particular part of our body we should be paying more attention to if we're trying to figure out if we're, becoming overly stressed?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the most common areas that get stressed, it's usually the liver or the kidney circuits, because liver is like anger, frustration, resentment, indecision, those kind of feelings. So a lot of liver, and then kidney is that fear, dread, impending doom, that kind of thing. So a lot of people are bouncing back and forth between like the fear, anger kind of emotions. So that's going to manifest, shoulder tension, pain between the shoulder blades, knee problems, jaw clenching, that stuff.
And a thought just came to my mind. You can tell me if I'm totally crazy or not. I actually hadn't made this connection myself until just now, and it might be nothing. Just full disclosure. So when somebody's angry, and I've noticed this in cases of alcoholism. When somebody's angry, they might be an angry drinker. So when they drink, they tend to get angry and they have
Yeah.
angry responses.
Yeah.
But then as that flows through the body and through the kidneys, they then get to sometimes the paranoia and then the grief. Am I onto something there? Or am I totally crazy?
Yeah, yeah, it totally works together that way. These the system that I use, NET pulls these things from Chinese medicine correlations, but these are universal correlations. I mean, even in English, there's certain words, like galled, like, oh, the gall, like I got some gall, or like a bilious person, like these are, liver and gallbladder emotions, and those are the feelings. Or when people are scared, they piss themselves, that's like kidney bladder feelings. Or crying is like, this is the lungs, it's like this, like heaving, like, so there are natural correlations to body areas that go with emotions, and it can go both ways.
So in these techniques, then you can focus on that. And
Mhm.
how and I'm curious, how do you focus on the liver specifically if you're working that body connection now?
Yeah, so you mean like in the NET process or just in general?
In the NET process itself.
So in the NET process, if we wanted to target the liver particularly, then instead of starting with the person saying something while we're muscle testing, we would just have them like hold a hand over their liver from the get-go, and then do the muscle testing and see if just touching it creates some kind of like stress response. So sometimes just touching it, immediately something will kind of glitch, and there's already a problem. Or if they touch it and nothing happens, but then we connect it to the emotional points and then it glitches, that tells us there's something going on about that connection. So it's like I said, it's like that circuit board you're connecting. Like, does
Mm.
this do anything when we touch this one? Does this do anything when we touch this one?
And I know this may seem like a kind of a chicken and egg question, but where do you start from once you've identified the problem in the NET? Like, do you start from the physical side, or do you start from the emotional or the mental side, the mind side?
It depends on the case, but if somebody, well, it depends on like the severity of whatever's happening, but if somebody is just like hasn't done very much self-care, they're just kind of like starting from square one. It's generally better to start more on the physical side, because because a lot of people, like, if the basics are out of whack, like, for example, if they're just, you know, carb binging and the sugar is all over the place and they're drinking a lot, like, that will give you a lot of, like, kind of false positives on the emotional, like, that'll throw the emotions way out of whack, and then it doesn't make sense to try and, fix it from this emotional approach. You're kinda wasting your time. So you would wanna, like, okay, let's scale back on the sugar and carb. Let's like get some water in your system, let's get some movement, and then circle back, 3 weeks later, a month later. Then they're like, okay, wow, I feel so much better, but I'm still stuck here. Then it's like, okay, well, now the fog is cleared. Now we see what we really need to work on the emotional side, but the rest was just like noise from
Mm.
diet or from dehydration or whatever.
I really like that you bring up diet and nutrition as well, because it's strange to me too, because when we go to the doctor, we go to a traditional doctor. They put you on pills for cholesterol, or they say, oh, they put your kid on Ritalin because they're hyperactive. They don't
Yeah.
ask about the diet, because how could it be possible that what you eat is connected to your brain, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
getting better, but why do you think there's that
Well,
hesitancy?
doctors are in a funny position. They're in this weird catch-22, because doctors, even if they know that this diet advice actually would be helpful, they can get in trouble by saying it if it's not the current standard of care. And then standard of care to the layperson, you think, oh, well, that's, evidence based, scientific, whatever. It's really not. Evidence of care is really more like, what would 9 out of 10 of your colleagues say? What would 9 out of 10 doctors say? So right now, the standard of care might be, oh, your cholesterol is this, you need a statin. You're this age, you need this. That's standard of care. If a doctor says, your cholesterol would actually go down if you quit eating your simple carbs, and let's, check again in a couple months. Now they're outside of standard of care. Even though that's correct, they can still get in trouble for that. So until standard of care shifts, they are hesitant to shift, but it won't shift until 9 out of 10 doctors. So it's like they just need to grow some balls and shift the standard of care. It's just it's a weird system, and it's tied in with pharmaceuticals and stuff. And I was talking to a pain specialist a while ago who was really interested in a similar approach to NET but different, and he was very frustrated because as passionate as he was about this like non-drug approach, he couldn't get paid if he used that approach because it didn't fall under the guidelines. A lot of his care was like workers comp case or whatever. They have like these real
Mm,
specific flow charts and guidelines, and this is authorized and this is standard of care and this is not. So he was like, I'd love to do this, but I have a wife and a kid and a mortgage. So they really they struggle, and it's a big systemic kind of problem.
mm. Yeah, I mean, my immediate question is how do you even? It's almost like that thousand monkey principle,
Yes. Yeah.
but how do you know when those nine doctors all agree, or when those 9 out of 10 doctors
Yeah,
agree?
you just have to people have to, I guess, learn more about what can they do for themselves. I mean, the good news is that most things are basic. Like the basics will handle a great many things, even if we just talk about water, or eating mostly things that don't have a label, or like things like that, like real basic guidelines. Or yeah, helping people to understand that um, food can be medicinal, like it, and it doesn't have to be. I mean, organic's probably better than not, but even not, like a dark bitter leafy non-organic chard can do a lot of good, compared to something out of a box, right? So if more people really learned and understood the real, like that's real, that's not just a fad or whatever, like that's real, that can help push push the system.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think there was a rule, right? I don't know if you've heard this rule. It's if you pick up something in the grocery store and you're reading the label and there's something that you don't know what it is, don't eat it.
Right. Right. Yeah, yeah. Or if it's not something you would have in your cupboard, right?
But it's difficult too, though, because I mean, we're on the run. We're
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
not all chefs, right?
Oh
So
yeah, it's not easy by any means. um but I think that's part of what my goal was, like with the daily nugget, is that uh, there's so many things that can affect your system, and you can't do everything right. But if you just do enough things, you can like tilt it. Like the body is a self-healing mechanism. So if it has enough of what it needs, it can handle other things. Like sometimes um like for example, I do better if I don't eat wheat, dairy, and
mm,
a bunch of sugar, right? But I find that like if I'm really good about the wheat and sugar, I can get away with the dairy. Or if I'm really good about the dairy and the wheat, I can handle more sugar. You just find like what are the things that affect you the most, and then can you take that thing out, or what are the things that help you the most, and can you bring that thing in? Because it is overwhelming to try to do everything perfect, because you can't. And just the world we live in, it's kind of a toxic, like, this is just how it is right now. So I think if you can just experiment and try different things and see which one is it's like that Pareto principle, the 80-20 thing. It's like which one is your 20% that will give you 80% of the return.
No, and I like that. And actually, this swings back to the whole mind body connection thing because so many of us just ignore that because our our head tells us, sometimes we should, eat more vegetables, but our stomach tells us, oh, those Doritos sound better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's rough sometimes.
Yep, it definitely is. Yeah, and I wear a continuous glucose monitor, and I find that that also helps with that again, that, like, accountability thing. It's like it almost it gamifies it, I look at the app and I don't want a bad score, like, because that messes with my identity as someone who tests well, like, so sometimes just to, like, not get a bad score on the app, I'll eat less of something or avoid something, whereas if I don't have it on at all, it's just like a kid with no accountability.
It's an interesting take on it. I think that's the first time I've heard somebody that's gamified a monitor like that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Maybe we should more try those out. It's been a really interesting conversation, really great conversation, Kim. We are coming up pretty close to the time. Do you feel that there's anything that maybe I should have asked that didn't ask, or something we shouldn't have covered but we didn't cover today?
I can't really think of anything. I think the main thing I just want people to understand is that their body plays a big role in what they're how they're experiencing life, what they're going through, even whether or not they get a task done. I just had a guy last week who was coming in for like some headache pressure, jaw, stuff like that. So we did actually a cranial adjustment, which is adjusting the bones in the skull. And when he came back after, he was like, "That was amazing." I read a book and a half, and I haven't read that much, and like so it's like he got more stuff done, but that wasn't the original goal. It was this, but when this structure opened up and the body felt better, like he just naturally got more done. And and so you just when you're in your rut, it sometimes just doesn't occur to you that just doing something that helps your body feel better might help whatever that is that you're bigger life challenges you're trying to get through.
Excellent, a very powerful note to end on. And just before we go, what is the best way for our listeners to reach out and learn more about you, or maybe even pick up a couple copies of your books?
Yeah, well, you can sign up for the Daily Nugget at www.dailyhealthnugget.com. That's where I put the sign up form. I have a little YouTube channel at Dr. Kim 94102. So probably the Daily Nugget is really the best because that's like a really easy little drip feed of really simple things that you can do to help yourself. So that would be the best thing, I think.
Excellent. And just again, to our listeners, don't worry about grabbing a paper and pen. We're going to have that in the show notes, so don't worry about that. We'll have it very easy for you to find. Well, thank you once again, Kim, for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure, and thank you once again to all our listeners for tuning in. And just remember, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and be that motivation or inspiration for someone else. And we'll see you again next time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, cool. Now we are waiting for the